so.
Will the aldermen please take their seats? Thank you.
What's your little thing? You got your name thing? How you doing? Good. How you are?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2018-2019 Board of Aldermen Budget Deliberations. Today is April 23rd, 2018, and today we are here for the departmental presentation portion of the automatic budget process. But before we begin, will everyone please join me as we salute our flag. Tom Flowers, how would you like to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tom. Well done. Madam Secretary, will you please take the roll?
Alderman Anderson.
Present.
Alderman Beatty. Alderman Fortunati. Alderman Gaynor. Here. Alderman Gurman. Here. Alderman Giannatasio. Here. Alderman Golden. Thank you.
Alderman Golden would like to be excused, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alderman Grant.
Here.
Alderman Hardiman.
Alderman Hardiman also would like to get excused.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alderman Smith. Here. Alderman Sutton.
Here.
Alderman Tranquilli. Here. Alderman Vecchiarelli. Here. Alderman Vitro.
Here.
Alderman Vitale. Here. 13 present, Mr. Chairman.
13 present. We do have a quorum.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayor, you would like to have a little something to say?
Mr. Chairman, for purposes of a congratulatory announcement, I'd just like to commend Alderman Grant, Jeremy Grant, for his superb performance in the Boston Marathon last week. He brought great pride to this community in monsoon conditions. A lot of people would not have had the fortitude to complete the 26 miles, and he did it in fine fashion. A remarkable time, the fastest runner from Milford, and just a great job. Congrats.
Good job, Alderman Grant. At this point, the first departmental organization on our agenda is the Veterans Ceremony Parade and Commission, page 33. Mr. Tom Flowers.
Chairman Vitro, members of the board, Mayor Blake, good evening. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Anyone member of the board would like to ask Mr. Flowers any questions regarding this account? I guess not.
If I just may say that the majority of the funds in our account, okay, in our budget, we use to purchase flags to place at on the veterans' graves in the three cemeteries in the city. I've already purchased those and received them. 36 gross at a cost of about $3,300. So that's like the lion's share of the budget.
Commend you, Mr. Flowers, on a great job you're doing with our veterans parades and all the other parades that you have things to do with. It's a pleasure to work under your command, so to speak. Good job.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We all appreciate it, and the Veterans Ceremony and Parade Commission.
You may want to stay around for the next account, 4815 Veterans Graves.
Mr. Chairman, I don't see any representatives from Veterans Graves. Mr. Flowers and the VCPC does coordinate with them on some activities, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer as well.
Anyone have any questions regarding Veterans Graves? Seeing none, we're all set. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Flowers. The next item on our agenda is account number 4816, Milford Flotilla 73, page 90.
Good evening, everyone. I got some handouts here. Well, first of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here again. My name is Bob Jasula. I serve as president of Flotilla 73, Inc. I am also the commander of Flotilla 24-3. The two are separate organizations in some way. Flotilla 73 is the holding company for Flotilla 24-3. Its charter is to support all the missions that the Flotilla 24-3 has to complete. So we're the folding company, and we're also the fundraising arm of the company. And we do a lot of fundraising through different events, and this being part of that. I want to first start off by saying that we really have appreciated so many years here. I've been part of the auxiliary for over 22 years. I serve as captain as well as commander here at a district level. And this city couldn't be more generous to our organization, and the reception that we've had here since I've been here for sure has just been outstanding, and I don't want that opportunity to pass. I thought everyone would ask us, what is it you guys do, all right? And the auxiliary is a uniform component of the United States Coast Guard. All its members carry employee ID to the Department of Homeland Security. I can't discuss all our missions, but I can discuss ones that I think are important to this community and the contribution that we've made. I asked our management group to put together the average from 2013 to 16, what our hours typically were of different components, which is what I passed out here. Then I just took 2017, and we did this kind of early. The numbers are actually higher than this right now, but this is really kind of a good example. And I just quickly take you through it. Our membership is about 68 people strong. It'll fluctuate anywhere 5 members up and down throughout a year as members age, relocate, new members come in. They all come in with a different vigor. And I look at the auxiliary as a learning platform, because that's truly what it is. The boat's a learning platform, the building's a learning platform, and it's a way for us to contribute back to the community. But we served, last year, it says 14,500 hours total contribution by our membership of the 68 or 70 people we're talking about. The hours actually ended up, when the year was over, 17,000 hours. Nobody gets paid for anything in the auxiliary. The fact is they're required to wear a uniform, and they actually have to buy the uniform. The only thing that's provided us through Homeland Security and the Coast Guard is our learning and our education. After 9/11, the Coast Guard's mission had changed completely. It quickly became part of the Department of Homeland Security. So it took on another mission without dropping off any other missions that it previously had. So things were pretty stretched, and they continue to be stretched as we face a different country and a different time. So I looked at the auxiliary, and I said, you know, there's a lot of talent over there. They're all kind of private citizens. They're trained in the fundamentals of what we do. If we can train them and take their own presence skills and add them to our force, it's a strong augmenting force. There's 44,000 men and women in the United States Coast Guard. There are 27,000 men and women in the auxiliary. This flotilla here in Milford is one of, I think, 10 in the area. Down south, on the south side of the shore, there's typically another 10 that support the stations in the sectors. So looking as an augmentation force, other than law enforcement, we cannot do any law enforcement. All the missions where they could delegate to us and better utilize their own manpower was what has taken place since 9/11. And that's basically what we do. Some examples are simple. Our total of Marine hours, in other words, on patrol, was over 1,200 hours. Our number of missions during those patrols were 56. No, they weren't just patrols, but they came into actual missions. Direct Coast Guard support was 211 hours. Marine safety, which is something that's close to Milford because this is a maritime community, at least I think, certainly a destination point, and why it's key that we're here. Recreation boat safety, we put over 11,000 hours into that mission. Public education hours, having people come in and teaching them the rules of the road and of safety, was almost 1,000 hours. Classes per students, we did 24 classes of just that kind of class, and we graduated 312 students. Milford Fire Department, they're also required as part of partnerships to have the basics in the state of Connecticut. We service them too. We've had 4 of those classes with the fire department, passed through 66 students. In Bridgeport, we did a similar thing, 4 classes with 44 firemen. Navigation classes at the base, we have 3 classes. They're always smallly attended because it's a very practical class, also heavily math-based. We've had 42 students. And we also go into the Milford school system. This is something we started 3 years ago, where we go in. We were asked, is there a way you guys can help us? Our students do not understand the need for math because they don't know where it applies. So we're looking for people who could come in and show them a practical application of math. Well, we came up with a program. We don't charge for that program. And we come into the schools, and we actually work with the students on charting and a whole bunch of other things. It's been a reward for us to do it, and to see what the kids get from it. It's really quite a nice thing. Marine dealer visits. We visit every marine dealer here. We make sure they understand the rules and how they've changed, and we make sure we provide them with any literature that they need as a retailer, like on life jackets. What's the right life jacket? What's the wrong life jacket? We've done over 251 of those visits last year alone. Right now, we've already completed about 30, and we'll be going out through the summer. We also do the Listman boat ramp. As new boaters come in during the season, we actually work with Ray, and we provide a safety package that he distributes. What we provided, put it all together, and Ray has stacks of them as boats come in. That's one of their welcoming gifts. Vessel safety checks. Vessel safety checks are free. All people got to do is call us. We'll board your vessel, take a good look at it, tell you what's right and wrong, and get you on your way. And if you pass it, you get a Coast Guard safety sticker. Doesn't mean you're not going to get pulled over, but at least it shows a signal that you were there. One of the important things that have taken place, not just in this town, but every town, is that of kayaking or paddle sports. We've lost more people in paddle sports than we've had from regular boating in the last 8 years. So it became a Coast Guard mission. You know, what do we know about paddle boards? But it became a Coast Guard mission, and we actually inspect those, and we actually work with those communities in the paddle community to make sure that people understand it, because it's such an easy sport to get into. And if you're going to do it on Long Island Sound, you have the same challenges, okay, of whether of anyone else. So we tried to educate that. We also, unfortunately, did 90 search rescues. Sadly to say, not all of them turned out the way you'd like to see them, okay? And we work partnership with the Coast Guard. The 73, our vessel which you keep chugging down the river, is a big part of what we are, not just the building, big part of what we are. But as the Coast Guard mission is changing more and more, and as facilities become available to communities like Milford, where they have fire boats and police boats and all those kind of things, and then they partner with the Coast Guard, we do a lot of two-boat drills with the Coast Guard stations. We're out, we call in, we meet up with their vessels, and we continue to drill each other, So in that sense, okay, we help make the Coast Guard ready. That's a little bit about who we are. If you asked every one of our members, why do you do this, you'll get a different answer. Some of the children are in the Coast Guard. Some of them are in the academy. Some of them just find it kind of a neat way to give back to God, country, and community. I know when 9/11 hit, I was grateful I could put a uniform on and actually be sent somewhere. Not in danger, but be sent somewhere. And it's service for us, and it's service for the community. With that, I'll answer any question that you have.
Alderman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, sir. Thanks very much for your presentation. I always like to quantify things a bit, so I wondered on any given day how many of your folks are at the Flotilla Center on Hellwig, number one. Number two, if you were doing a program, how many volunteers does that involve?
Just the latter part of that, the programs. Let me answer your first part first. We meet twice a month. All right, one's a business meeting, one's a training meeting. Those are formal meetings, and the attendance in those meetings is usually 35 people. Okay. We teach a boat safety class once a month. That's always on a Saturday, and that could bring in a whole bunch of people. Okay. You know, sometimes we do turn them away. I think the other question is that they don't necessarily meet at the flotilla. They all get their assignments, and they're all around the community. They do all their training, and at the base we do have Coast Guard community, because they have to keep their certifications up. You know, if I want to be an instructor, I have to be certified to be an instructor. I have to demonstrate that every 2 years. The boat crews have to demonstrate their capability every year, and they actually do that in front of examiners, Coast Guard examiners, and on top of that, they have to take online tests, and they do that at the base. So at the base during the week, there's probably 10 people in and out. Okay.
Thank you, and I have a couple of follow-ups very briefly. The number of vessels that Flotilla has in its possessions are?
1.
Do you patrol Housatonic River and along the coastline as well?
We cover, our AOR starts at New Haven Harbor, because it's a big commercial harbor, plus our station is there, and that's how we get fuel. We don't buy our own fuel. The Coast Guard does provide the fuel, so we go fuel up there. And then we work our way this way into the Milford area, and then we'd go up the Housatonic and back. That's what they do all the time.
So your vessel could find its way to the Coast Guard station at Nathan Hale, is that correct?
That is correct. That's correct. Sometimes it's actually slipped up there. We actually can leave it there overnight. I mean, we really, at the station and with the boat crew people, they're really they're an extension of that.
Got it.
okay?
That's really what I wanted to get to the heart of. And then finally, Mr. Chairman, you had mentioned Ray Swift. How integral is Flotilla to the operations down at Lisbon Landing? How often would you interact, and how integral is Flotilla to the operations down there?
Maybe a little hard for me to answer. As far as all the literature, we check out with Ray, what does he need, what handouts does he need, because we have all that, and we'll put those packets together. And you know, no matter, I don't know how many boats he has coming in this year or last year, but all of them received a packet of materials that we collected. Because we are neighbors over there, we do a lot of head checks with each other. How's it going? Anything we can do? Our boat is not slipped up down there, but he does let us, when we're working on the vessel, because it's so quite convenient for us to work right from the base to the boat, does let us slip us up so that we can do whatever work we need and move out.
Thanks very much for your answers. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Any more? Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. Can you share with us, the members of the board, why you're only recommending $9,000 this year? And clearly, in the past, you've budgeted for $9,500, and back in 2016-17, you actually expensed for $10,000. I'm just curious to know, your budget request is less than you've previous years.
I'll be very honest with you. We're preconditioned before we do this. We're uncomfortable asking for the money. We really are. We need the money, but we're uncomfortable asking for it. Last year, a request came down for us to take another look because things might get tight. What could you live with? And we quickly went through a number, because we then did our budgeting based on that. Quickly went through a number and said, you know, I guess we could take a 10% hit or less. So we're trying to, in a maybe an absurd way, trying to get back to the city when they asked for it back. So that's what we did. And the case that happened this year, we looked at our budget. Last year we went through a lot of expenses upgrading the boat with a lot of electronics. We don't see us doing that this year. Our budget, we're hoping to have more students this year. So therefore the need came out in our budgeting practice that maybe we can get away with $9,000. That's what we put in. We're always preconditioned when we come here. We're always. It's not just our needs. It's where's the city here?
Well, we appreciate that as well, and I just wanted to, ask the question. And it sounds like you support us a great deal out in the harbor, so we do appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Beatty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. And to repeat, thank you for all you do for the city and the greater community. I just have a question. The 73 rescue operations seems an enormous amount for the budget and the number of people and the volunteer hours. And I have that impression from other years. But does the 73 operation, that augments the Coast Guard activity, who is still involved in them? They don't do salvage, but they do rescue, is that correct?
No, we can't do salvage. Neither can the Coast Guard unless there's a life in danger.
Right.
There are private organizations out there like Boat Tow. We can't compete with these people, because we're going to do it for nothing. Okay, we're not allowed to compete with them. Our orders are very clear. If there's a threat of life, all right, you're to help. And you don't do it on your own. You call in and you get approval. If there's no threat of life, you just stay with the boat and ask them if they call boat tow, and if they haven't, we call boat tow for them. All right? So we don't compete in that sense. Obviously, if it's life and death, all this thinking goes out the window. You go out there, you do the job. You match up with a helicopter, you match up with the station in the sector. They put us where they want us. And they do the same thing for the fire department. Everybody works under ICS, which is multiple agencies. We all know what we got to do. We all got to be qualified in ICS. So to answer your first question, no. When I joined, it was the flotilla. Not anymore. This is a different Coast Guard. It's not about just the boat anymore. It's that base and what we could contribute in boat safety is what it's all about. And to be honest with you right now, if the Coast Guard said, look, we don't want you guys to own vessels anymore, it wouldn't change anything for us. It really wouldn't, with the way the mission is laid out right now. So I hope I explained that to you.
Anyone else wishing to ask any more questions for Flotilla 73? Seeing none, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And all the work that you do for the city of Milford.
Thank you.
The next account on the agenda is account number 4822, Cemetery Association, page 91. Anyone here from the Cemetery Association?
Mr. Chairman, I do not believe so. I'm happy to answer questions if they come up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anyone having any questions for the Cemetery Association? I guess not. Thank you, though, Mr. Mayor. The next account on the agenda is 4610, Health Department, page 79.
Good evening, everyone. So what is being passed around, which should reach you shortly, I always like to use tonight as an opportunity to update you on some of the exciting things that have happened over the past year. So the first document that you have is a snapshot of the Milford Health Department and the various divisions and the work we've been doing over the past year. So I'd like to highlight a few things on the front cover. At the top, you'll see one of our core functions is obviously to prevent disease, communicable disease within the city. Last fiscal year, we saw about 500 reported cases of disease. These are laboratory confirmed cases. And for those, we do surveillance work and follow up with physicians and patients as needed. This year, due to the severe flu season we had, that number is going to go up significantly because just with influenza this year, we saw over 400 laboratory confirmed cases of influenza alone this season. So it's a big part of what we do. The other thing that I wanted to highlight this year, and I've spoken about in the past, is that public health departments across the country are now pursuing voluntary accreditation, which is essentially like the Good Housekeeping seal of approval for public health departments. The state of Connecticut is moving forward as well in that. So in the middle, you'll see a timeline. We are looking to pursue accreditation at the Milford Health Department. Currently, we've taken the first 2 steps, which is a health assessment and looking at a health improvement plan for the community, and we're currently in the process of developing a strategic plan as well. We are pursuing accreditation largely through grant funding in order to assist us along with that process. On the bottom, you'll see our grants management and a comparison of where we were last year versus this year. And most of our grants are programmatic grants, so they fund programs in the areas of lead, asthma, emergency preparedness is a large portion of our grant funding as well as healthy homes initiatives and various, again, programmatic pieces. And then we also have our Parent Leadership Training Institute, which I think several of you are familiar with. That program, we were not able to run that program this year because the grant funding did not come through for that program. but we have had over 100 graduates in that program. We are looking to run the program again next year with funding, hopefully, and it's a program that's had great success and which has really given back to this community with many graduates going on local boards and commissions as well. On the inside, you will see a snapshot of our environmental health division. So this is basically environmental health by the numbers and shows you some of the community impact as a result of the work that our sanitarians do. Everything from food protection, which is our food service establishments, and enforcement. We issued over 700 licenses last year. That includes annual licenses as well as temporary licenses for community events that occur, Oyster Festival, Food Truck Festival, things like that. Under there, you'll also see foodborne illness complaint investigation. So anytime there's a complaint regarding foodborne illness or laboratory confirmed cases of foodborne illness, we do a full outbreak investigation. And then we have housing code enforcement, blight enforcement, as well as a variety of other things that we do, beach water sampling from Memorial Day through Labor Day. And so I've included a lot of the numbers for that for your review. And then finally on the back, you'll see the Public Health Nursing and School Nursing Division. So I just want to really highlight in the middle, over 46,000 health office visits. So those are visits to the school nurses throughout our school buildings, and over 15,000 medications and treatments administered. And the big highlight at the bottom is over 37% of Milford students have a health condition that requires management by a school nurse. So again, you know, gone are the days of just Band-Aids and tummy aches, and our nurses are really dealing with a variety of health conditions at the school level, managing things, everything from diabetes to asthma to tube feedings, mental health issues, behavioral health issues. So our nurses are doing a lot out there in addition to what some people may see as the typical school nurse activities. So that's just our general snapshot, and I'll take any questions on the health department side.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Hi, Dee. Good evening. Thank you for being so succinct and quantitative. Your quantitative analysis is great, as usual. In the budget, Finance Board cut you approximately $14,000. Could you tell us the impact of that $14,000?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, the adjustments were a request by the Finance Board based on, there was a request citywide. When we adopted this budget, there were changes in positions, in the steps of positions. So Peter went back through all the different positions. There were several in the health department, and there was some adjustments to the steps, so that there may have been a step 3 or a maximum step that was vacant, the expectation of which was that a new person that was hired for that position is going to be hired at a step 1. And so that's where the big difference comes for the health department's adjustment from the Finance Board.
So basically, the cut came with the adjustments of monies on steps of new hirees or those who were leaving the job. That's where that cut comes from. So that was prevalent in a lot of the other budgets along, and we've been living with that for a few years because those adjustments were never made. So I guess it's a rhetorical question: how is that $14,000 cut going to affect the health department? Because thank you.
So as
Oh, I'm sorry, is there still a question?
Well, I guess it's a rhetorical question.
Yeah, I mean, as far as everything is reflective of the existing positions that we have and of the anticipated steps. So we had a couple of vacancies this past year that we were able to fill, and the staff that are coming in at lower steps.
Right, thank you. And I know that's been commonplace in a lot of the budgets, where in the past it probably was never accounted for and always left a little bit to be desired within that structure of the budget, so that there could be other monies could be moved around. So anyway, thank you very much for what you do. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Deepa, thank you for your concise summary here. All these positions are currently filled? Is that
Correct.
correct? Now, are you down a position from 2 years ago, or?
We had a vacancy, which the sanitarian is starting on Monday, actually. So, but
Okay, so from 2 years ago, are you down one, or?
we're down in this budget, no. In our nursing budget, we were down a position.
And these are all currently full?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any more questions regarding the health department? Seeing none, I will move on to the health services, account 4821, page 91. That's the VNA. Any questions pertaining to health services, the VNA? I don't see any, so we'll move on to account number 4821. I'm sorry, 4998, education, health services, school nurses, page 95. Anyone having any questions regarding the educational health services, school nurses? I guess not. Thank you. And so the next one on the agenda is Human Services Department, account number 4817.
Okay, so that is the second grouping of handouts that you received. So over the past year and a half, I've been over at the Human Services Department, and one of the things that we've really been trying to work on is getting a handle on some of the quantitative pieces of what the agency does. So I've pulled together some information for you all on that piece. On the human services side, we continue to provide outreach to our residents in a variety of services. When we talk about in the upper left corner, the outreach case management, those are really outreach referrals that cover a number of services that don't fall under necessarily our kind of canned energy assistance program or rent rebate program. These are residents who come to us with a variety of needs. They may fall under emergency housing needs, it might be food, it might be clothing, it might be budget assistance, a variety of things that they come to us for. So last fiscal year, we saw 263 cases comprised of 683 individuals. So it was a mix of individuals and families. We also make referrals to the Milford Food Bank for individuals that come seeking food assistance. On the left-hand side, the second box, you'll see financial assistance provided. This is an area that historically our agency has worked closely with community-based agencies, including the United Way, Salvation Army, some of the local churches, in order to provide direct financial assistance to our residents in emergency situations. This past year, and you'll see on the second page a snapshot of our budget and our grant funding, we were able to increase our grant funding by 97% from previous years, which has really allowed us to be able to contribute more to the pot in terms of some direct emergency assistance to our residents. And that assistance is provided in the form of utility assistance, rent mortgage assistance, emergency oil assistance, and some emergency hotel stays for various things that occur. We also have a food voucher program, again, grant funded, that we're able to provide food vouchers through local grocery stores for our residents that need it. We also continue to do the Energy Assistance Program out of the Human Services Agency. This past year, we were able to partner with TEAM Incorporated, which is the local community action agency, where rather than, one of the things that I saw when I came into the agency was that there is a significant need for outreach services in this community, but the staff was really working very hard to do energy assistance for our community. So we partnered with TEAM. TEAM was able to provide a staff person on site at Human Services to take a lot of the energy assistance applications, which enabled us to free up our outreach workers to provide more outreach services to our residents. So that was very successful this year. And then we continue to take rent rebate applications as well in our office. We also run some of our holiday programs, our Thanksgiving food basket program, as well as a spring food basket program, partnering again with various agencies in town. We also have the Adopt a Family program around the winter holiday season, where families are adopted by various agencies and organizations in the community and provided with holiday gifts that they need and want, and there's a balance between needs and wants. So that's the human services side. And then on the youth and family services side, which is the back page, we continue to provide individual, family, and group therapy services with 82 intakes that were assigned for treatment. We also partner with Milford Public Schools to do some groups in the school setting at some of the elementary schools, as well as providing a satellite therapy program at Jonathan Law High School. And then we continue to do some programs throughout the year and partner with the fire department on the juvenile fire setters program, as well as the police department on the juvenile diversion program. And then that last page again is just a snapshot of where we are with our grant funding. While we saw a couple of cuts to some of our state funding, again, we were able to increase our funding, particularly through the Emergency Food and Shelter Program. Historically, that's been, well, many years ago, we had a few pots from the Emergency Food and Shelter Program to address needs in the areas of utility as well as food. And we had lost that along the way, and it was primarily utility assistance. This past year, we were able to get back the emergency food assistance, as well as rent mortgage assistance and emergency hotel stays. So we continue to, it continues to be a focus of mine to increase that grant funding to the agency to allow us to do more things within our community.
Excuse me, Alderman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hi, Deep. I was going to ask you about TEAM, so I'm glad you covered it. I'm glad to know that things are going well. I had experienced it through a family member myself during, not this, but last year's heating season, and it wasn't working so well because the level of funding wasn't there, and there was miscommunication, I think. And I'm glad to know that you're on top of that situation and able to provide the level of service that's necessary in that area. So I'm very happy to hear that. I wondered what the level of coordination is with the Senior Center as one agency and the Housing Authority as another.
We work very closely with the Senior Center on a variety of issues specific to residents who are at the Senior Center as well as who come to our office. We partner closely with, there is a part-time case manager that works over at the Senior Center, so often our staff and their staff are working together to ensure the needs of seniors that come to our agency are met. So we work very closely with them. Housing Authority as well, so the rent rebate program is a great example where we actually go to the Housing Authority sites rather than have the residents come to our office in order to complete their application for rent rebate, we schedule site visits and we go out to them. And we have had situations where they have some residents who are unable to, who are fairly homebound, so we provide site visits for them as well for services.
Thanks very much. Thanks for your presentation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, just as an update, Rebecca Flynn, who is Milford's liaison to the Board of Directors for TEAM, has requested to make a presentation in front of your board at an upcoming regular Board of Aldermen meeting, so she'll be scheduled, or TEAM will be scheduled either at the May, June, or July meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any more questions regarding the Human Services? Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Good evening. I just wanted a little clarification. On the parent leadership training grant, you said that it didn't come through. What exactly does that mean? Does that mean that we missed the opportunity or it wasn't available?
Thank you for asking that question. Actually, what happened was the state grant comes through, it comes through the Parent Trust Fund. Those dollars were released very late in the process, so typically we kick off our program in January each year because it's a 20-week program. The dollars only became available in late December, which it just prevented us from, we couldn't apply for the funding, find out about it, and start the program all at once. So it was really more of a timing issue. And actually, there were no communities that applied for the funding because of the timing issue. So PLTI was not run in any community in the state this year.
Okay, because it was a little disappointing to hear that. I know that that's always well attended. And like you said, people from that program, that grant, end up serving on other boards and commissions as a result?
Absolutely. We were really disappointed to see it too, and we had several meetings with the design team, which is the advisory board for that program, and to see if we could pull together some of the funding locally, but we decided rather than do a half program that we would just wait until the next round of funding because it just didn't look like it was going to come together.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. What's your time split between the Health Department and Human Services?
That's a tough question. I'd say probably, it's really hard to quantify, maybe 60-40, perhaps. It's really difficult to quantify because I'm kind of a bit everywhere at once, depending on the issues that come up. Right now, I am spending, a bit more time with the Human Services side because we do have several vacancies in that agency, so just trying to keep things moving. So it's probably a little bit heavier on that side right now. And again, it ebbs and flows depending on grant applications, when things are due, and all of that. So I'm a bit everywhere.
Thank you. Very busy.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Alderman Vitale, do you have your hand up? Your question was answered. Any more questions regarding the Human Services? Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Thank you. Good evening. I was wondering if you could tell me how many people, if any, succumbed to the flu in Milford.
So we had this past season, we're at 400, I want to say 419 laboratory confirmed cases, and we're still getting some cases. So influenza B is what's circulating right now, so I don't have a final number on that. So thankfully there were no deaths associated with the flu in Milford in particular, but so the laboratory confirmed numbers are 419 or so, but that's through March. I don't have the April numbers yet.
Any more questions regarding human services? Seeing none, thank you very much, Deepa.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for the great job you're doing for the city.
Thank you.
The next account on our agenda is the Boys and Girls Club, account number 4826, page 92. This evening.
Great, thank you.
Good.
Thank you guys so much for allowing me to be here today and to talk about the Boys and Girls Club. It's one of my favorite things. I'd also really like to thank everyone who came down for a tour of the Boys and Girls Club. It was a great experience both nights, and I hope you guys had as much fun as I did. For those of you that weren't able to attend, I'm just going to paint you a quick little picture. We're in this older school, and it's very quiet during the day, but as soon as 3:30 rolls around, there's nothing but fun and excitement and laughter, and 150 kids roaming the halls and separating into their groups, and homework getting done, and shoes getting tied, and snacks handed out, and a lot of connections and positivity going on. In addition to a general after-school program, we do offer over 90 enrichment programs. So that's everything from a healthy eating program that teaches kids how to make healthy snacks on their own, to running club where they run over 50 miles over the course of 8 weeks and learn all the disciplines that come along with running, to a STEM program, a 3-part STEM program, which we partner with Mystic Aquarium. So there's really something for every kid, and we don't charge any additional fees for any of the enrichment programs that we offer. We just charge the one flat fee of $200 a year for the kids to attend our program. I just handed out a quick little update on the Boys and Girls Club. It's got our contact information, a little bit of what we do, in case I haven't talked about it enough. It has a full listing of all of the programs that we offer, as well as some statistics and demographics of the kids that we serve. These numbers are based on last year, so I was able to give you a full picture of the 2016-17 school year. Regarding our total membership, we, during the 16-17 year, which was our last full program year, we had a 36% growth over year 2015-16. This year, we're currently serving 509 members, and we are looking to probably surpass the 515 kids that we served last year. Our program year will end at the end of June. So we've continually seen growth since our inception. Our average is about 30% each year. We're kind of standing still right now. We haven't really been marketing or advertising our program too much, just on the mere fact that we don't have a tremendous amount of room to keep getting more kids. So, and then just if you go over to the fees and structures page, one of the things from last year when we had our audited report, it looked like we had a really stellar year, which we did on the income side. And the reason we're showing such a surplus is because we got a grant at the end of June for $50,000 for capital improvements, which we applied some safety improvements to the building. So air conditioning during the hot summer months when it's 100 degrees and we have kids outside playing all day and then having a cooler area for them to come. We installed a PA system so we could easily address all of the kids. God forbid there's an emergency. And we also improved our security system throughout the club. So while the income hit in last fiscal year and we had to report it per our auditor, the expense didn't hit till this year. So that's why there looked like there was such a surplus, even though we just didn't incur the expense at that time. So does anybody have any questions about the Boys and Girls Club or anything I could answer?
Megan, you presently are at maximum, right? Your maximum capacity. You have waiting lists as well?
We do have a waiting list, but only on our buses. So we could still house more kids at the Boys and Girls Club. It's just our JFK and Pumpkin Delight buses are completely filled, so we don't have ways in which to transport the kids from those schools. So I do have a couple kids on waiting lists at both of those schools. If their parents are able to get out of work, bring them to the club, and we have a little bit of room, but not a tremendous.
I just want to say I thoroughly enjoyed my tour that you gave all of us aldermen. It was a pleasure going through that whole deal that you run. You did such a fantastic job. I don't know of anybody that enjoys their work as much as you do. That's quite impressive. Anybody have any questions regarding Boys and Girls Club? Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Hi, Meg, how are you?
Great.
Thank you for the great job you're doing with all these kids. It's not easy at 3:30, I'm sure. But just to, having said that, just to know that your ask this year was $100,000 and you got cut by $30,000. Can you tell us how impactful that will be if it stays at that level?
Definitely. So one of the big hits that we had this year is with our state funding. We were cut more than 50%. We continue to serve more kids every year. We continue to offer more programs, and we're doing that with trying to not only keep the funds that we've already secured, but trying to expand and get more funding. So when the state cut us, that was a pretty big hit, and we're just trying to look for different ways to make that up and continue to be able to grow our budget so we can serve more kids.
I know you have a great fundraising initiative anyway, so you do a lot that way. So you think it'll be okay? You'll still be able to at least operate on the same level that you're doing at this point?
We will definitely figure out how to continue to operate at the same level. We're always looking how we can expand and serve more kids. But until we figure out how to get more funding, which we always do, but it's just a little bit more challenging when sources you were counting on cut.
Thank you.
Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you to me. Thank you for everything you do. You do a terrific job over there. Can you just give a little recap on some of your fundraisers, just so people know when they are?
I would love to. This is a great opportunity. So Thursday night, if anyone's interested, we'll be down at Costa Azura for our annual gala. It is our largest fundraiser of the year. We have partnered with the Montano family, and on June 25th, we have our second annual Montano Distributors Golf Tournament. On August 5th, we have the Walnut Beach Ice Cream Run, which benefits the Boys and Girls Club. We have over 500 runners at that event. We have Pumpkins Eve, which is our new event, and that is going to be October 5th this year. We have the Rum Runners coming back, so we're really excited for that. If we could have the perfect weather we had last year, I don't know, but that would be great. Then October 6th is our Pumpkins on the Pier Pumpkin Festival event. Hopefully by now everybody's heard of it. And then we have our adult dodgeball tournament, which we just finished a couple weeks ago. So we have a full slate of events at the club.
Alderman Gurman.
One more follow-up, Mr. Chairman. And so if somebody can't afford to join the club, do you have some special programs?
100%. We currently scholarship 26% of the kids that come to the Boys and Girls Club. So while our fee is very low of $200 for the entire year, there's definitely families that are unable to afford that. One of our things is we do believe everyone should pay something. I don't care if it's $1, but there should be a little something that the family pays. But we do scholarship 26% of the kids that come to the Boys and Girls Club.
Thank you.
Alderman Fortunati.
It's really amazing. I have a question. You said you lost 50% of your state funding. So how much is that?
It is over $17,000.
17. Okay, thank you.
Any more questions regarding the Boys and Girls Club? Yes, Alderman Gaynor.
Hi, Meg, how are you? I just have to commend, like everybody else, your enthusiasm is just infectious down at the club, and you have consistently demonstrated that for years. And the camaraderie of the staff also reflects in the children and the camaraderie amongst themselves. So that is truly serves all of our constituents, and I think it's really amazing. I also think it's important to note how you're involved with the teens of the community. I don't think that's a very unique program that you offer.
Thank you.
So my question is, you were cut from the state, and I know transportation was cut a few years ago. What would you do if you were able to get more money? What would if you had more funding, what would you feel would be best served?
if we could get more funding?
Either the state reinstated, it would be transportation, more facility.
Definitely, we would love to be able to expand to the other side of town. It's something I talk about every year I come up here. So if you guys have a building on the other side of town, I'll throw it out like I do every year. But we would definitely love to be able to serve more kids, whether it's expanding the transportation that we offer or just being able to afford. My biggest expense is my staff. That is by far the biggest expense. And my staff are the best thing I could spend the money on because they're the ones that are there for the kids and changing their lives. So if I could hire more staff to be able to serve more kids, that would definitely be what we do.
Any more questions regarding the Boys and Girls Club? Seeing none, thank you again, Megan.
Thank you,
for
everybody.
the fantastic work you do over there at Boys and Girls Club. See you Thursday. The next account on our agenda is account number 4215, Management Information Services, MIS, page 39.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Jean Lazek. I'm the MIS coordinator here for the city, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have regarding my department or my budget.
Anyone have any questions for the MIS department? I guess we're all set.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming,
Good night.
and have a good night. The next account on the agenda is account number 4210, Finance Department, page 37.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll follow Jean's lead and introduce myself. I'm Peter Eridisi, Director of Finance for the City of Milford. I'm pleased to have some of my key division heads here, Ariane Swift, our City Accountant, Marianne Klinga, our Tax Collector, and Daniel Thomas, our Assessor. I'm very pleased to have them here. I'll say a few introductory remarks regarding the department. I'll also offer an invitation if any of the division heads have any opening remarks, they're free to do so. And of course, we are all here to answer any questions that you might have. Without going through a long list of the additional and constant work and challenges that befall the finance department year after year, I want to mention a few key themes. One being the turnover, if you will, in the city as a whole, primarily due to retirements, and how that has affected the finance department being one of the central departments of the city that handles a lot of the city's operations. You can just imagine in terms of purchase orders, accounts payable, administration of benefits, and the list goes on. And you can recall even the police contract recently and the changes, dare I say a bit complicated changes in terms of the wage step structure. That all of these examples create additional work and challenges for my department and its employees. I want to commend all of the division heads and all the dedicated employees of the finance department for all the work that they do. I'm very pleased with the team that I have. It's been an honor and a privilege working with them over all these years, and I think the city is very fortunate to have them. I also want to mention how turnover has affected the finance department specifically. I think since the year I first started with the city, there's been just key turnover within the department itself, primarily again due to retirements, but also for other reasons as well, but primarily due to retirements. Losing a lot of key people that had a lot of knowledge and experience. We miss them greatly, but I'm grateful for the new people that have come on board. I think a lot of the staff that we have now has really stepped up to the plate and gone beyond the call of duty to deal with the challenges of turnover on a year-to-year basis. I'd like to mention specifically Ariane Swift and Vernell Bethel, our city accountant and junior accountant, who have really, I use this expression, gone above and beyond the call of duty and put in a tremendous amount of time and effort, because they themselves in that office lost the 2 accounts payable clerks this past fiscal year. And the city had a hiring freeze, and we had challenges. As all of you know, it's challenging in this job market now to fill positions. I think a lot of state and local governments, if you read the newspapers and recent articles in government finance journals, I think local and state governments are having an increasingly hard time finding good people, qualified people to fill positions for a variety of reasons. And so that has affected us. It takes longer to fill these positions, and what happens in the meantime? There's a lot of stress and extra work put on the existing staff. It's time away from their families, from their homes, and it often goes, they're like the unsung heroes at times, and I want to take this time to publicly thank them, and I think the city as a whole owes them a debt of gratitude for the work that they have put in and continue to put in. I also like to cite Marianne Klinga and Corey Grumberitz in the tax office. We've lost a lot of people in that office, as you all may recall, and they have been remarkable in really rolling up their sleeves and learning quickly and really setting a good example for their office. And the tax office, I think it's been remarkable how well they've been able to, quote unquote, roll with the punches, so to speak, losing so many key people almost at the same time. I'd like to cite Dan Thomas and all of his deputy assessors for the excellent work that they do for the grand list each year. They also do a variety of other tasks besides the grand list. And I like to commend him and all the deputy assessors and his staff for their hard work as well. My office in finance has treasury, payroll, administration, and my office itself, which is a very central office as well. We've seen a lot of activity, a lot of employees coming in with questions. We just do a lot with the lean staff and the lean resources that we have. That is our normal, I remember this comment I made years ago, the new norm. That new norm continues. Besides all that, we are dealing with a major financial system conversion project that we're in the midst of undertaking. We started last year. This involves, as you all may recall, and some of the new aldermen, the complete conversion of the city's financial system as well as its HR and payroll system. We handle a weekly payroll that's done in-house, 52 weeks a year, and that whole system as well is being converted because, as you all can remember, we've been on a New World System platform, the AS400, for over 25 years. And as painful and as much work and as much stress as this bit has been on me in particular and all of my staff, we basically, to be quite frank, had no choice because the system, the support of that system pretty much has dwindled. We're down to, I think, 1 support person at New World. If that person is sick or out, not in the office and we have a problem, it becomes quite a stressful undertaking. So we really had no choice but to go forward to convert our system. We are going to the Munis financial system, as you may remember, and we really have been working hard this past year, and we are still going through it. We have training scheduled with the city departments starting this week and continuing into June. We expect and hope to go live July 1st, but as you can imagine, with the amount of work involved and the lean resources we have and the lack of resources at times, it's been a huge challenge. With that said, I'd like to thank the board and the entire city for its support of this project. We are appreciative of what you have given us and the resources to at least to have gotten this project off the ground. But with all that we've done, we still have a long way to go. There are a lot of challenges ahead, particularly with the second phase, which is payroll. And so I just want to elaborate on all that to say that it remains an ongoing challenge for our department with the employees we have and with the constant turnover to deal with all these projects and this huge project of the system conversion. Going to the budget in particular, I would say that we, along with the other departments, have done our best to make cuts to help the city. It's a very lean budget, and I humbly ask for your support of it. And I'd like to open up to questions and again invite the division heads, if they have any opening remarks, to please feel free to take the microphone. Thank you very much.
Well, Peter, I just want to take the time to congratulate you and your staff for continuing our AAA status that we have been very, very fortunate to have. It's not lucky, it's great work that you and your staff have been doing. I don't consider that luck, I just think that's hard work, and you all should be very well commended for the work that you do for the city. Thank you. Any questions for the Finance Department? Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening. And again, thank you for what happens to be a tremendous amount of work with a very few amount of people. Just a couple of questions. In the capital outlay, 49770000, office equipment for $1,000. Can you just elaborate, because you don't have calculators, photocopiers, chairs, or computer software? What would that entail?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, Alderman Vitale, it is my understanding that that might fall within the tax office, I believe, so I'll open it up to Mary Ann and/or Dan Thomas.
It does. It falls within the tax office. It's mainly for receiver machines that we use to validate the tax bills when they come in, cash counters, things of that nature, things that the office equipment that we need to produce and process the bills as efficiently as possible.
So that's new equipment?
That's not, it's not a new budget item. Was that your question?
Capital outlay. So those are machines you haven't had before?
Right. It's replacements.
The replacements. So should that be on the capital outlay if it's a replacement?
If it's a capital purchase, yes. So if we're replacing a newer machine, an older machine with a newer machine.
Outlays are usually something that you haven't had before. I may be mistaken on that. The other thing is that there's, in account 0190, there's 6,000 plus computers. Is that one computer, 5 computers? How many computers are those?
That's a combination of the entire tax office.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, just to add, that's actually the combination of the entire finance department. So that's all of the 6 divisions of finance, that computer line item.
But that's hardware?
It's hardware. A lot of the computers are on an older version of Microsoft Office, some of them, so they'll have to pay for, I think it's about $300+ for the Microsoft Office license update. And if their monitor happens to be on the fritz, that'll be another, $180 more or less, and that comprises a total cost for the whole system.
Well, you don't show anything under computer software, so I'm assuming it's just hardware. And how many computers does that take in?
I would have to pull out the BR1s. I don't have those in front of me, but we can get that number for you.
Just one more question. In the account for budgeted positions, I can assume that the $30,000 cut is because it's due to the step adjustments?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, yes, the cuts to regular wages, to Alderman Vitale's question, yes, is due to decreases in the steps due to the new people that we hired to fill vacant positions.
So that's another department that reflects the idea of step adjustments in their budget. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just to touch upon that question, because Alderman Vitale, I agree that he made a comment saying that these were never done. I'd just like to clarify, never is kind of a strong word. I have made adjustments in some budget years when I could and had the time to do so to positions. And this time I took the extra time to take a careful look globally. And so I do agree with the alderman that I haven't done all of the adjustments year after year, but to say never is a strong word. I have made adjustments downward in other budget years.
I agree with you, never is a very strong word, but in those years that those adjustments weren't made, it provided extra money in those budgets, did it not?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that is a fair statement, but that's not the full picture because the majority of the money went back to the city's fund balance, which we all know helps to support our AAA credit rating as well as reimburse the general fund for appropriations of fund balance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Alderman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Peter, through the chair. Couple of questions. The use of credit cards by Milford residents is still relatively new as a practice for us. So I wondered what the fee is that's charged per transaction and where those fees actually show up in the budget.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Anderson. Yes, credit cards have been relatively new for the city. I think over the past few years, we've gradually phased it in to key departments. For example, the tax office, the city clerk's office, the recreation department. Recently, our city treasurer worked with Chief Ito and the fire department, as well as Ray Swift in the marina to implement credit cards there. The general rule for the most part are that the fees are passed along to the customer. So it's the taxpayer or customer that's paying the fee. And so it's not a fee for the city. That's the general rule. I have not memorized all of the fee schedules, but Mary Ann is here and she may recall, for example, the user fees for the tax office.
Right, so for most credit cards, it's 2.5%.
And that, excuse me, is characterized as a convenience fee, if you will.
Right. Thank you very much for that. And then another question through you, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking at the budgeted positions, and I'm noting that for Accountant 1 and Treasurer position, I'm seeing an increase in salary for Accountant 1 of just over 6,000, and for treasurer, just over 5,000. Could you detail that for us, Peter? Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Alderman Anderson. For Accountant 1, that is a combination of the step increase from step 2 to step 3, as well as the annual wage increase, which, if I'm not mistaken, is 2.5%, I believe. 2.25% or 2.5%, and so it's the combination of that, and that goes the same for the treasurer, payroll administrator, going from step 1 to step 2, along with the annual wage increase.
Thanks very much. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any more questions regarding the Finance Department? Seeing none, we'll move on to account number 4143, Board of Assessment Appeals, on page 29. Anyone having any questions regarding the Board of Assessment Appeals? No questions. Thank you, Dan. Thank you for coming here tonight and being ready to answer any of the questions. We'll close under that account and open under account number 4115. Registrar of Voters on page 15. Good evening, ladies.
Good evening.
From the Registrar's Office.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Just to introduce ourselves, I'm Carrie Rowland, and this is Deborah Fellenbaum. And for those of you who are new, what is so unique about our department over all the other departments in the city is that we are co-head of the department. And in this political climate, I certainly don't have to tell that to all of you, we take great pride in our working relationship, in our personal relationship. And what we do first and foremost is act as guardians of democracy. And we do take very seriously that responsibility. And we can talk to you a little bit about what we do, because it's a little bit beyond just running elections on Election Day in November, and especially for some of you that are new. We do a lot with our voter registration. We have new systems in place so that people can register online and through the Department of Motor Vehicles. We also register people in person, and we go out to the high schools each year and register new voters. We not only maintain the electronic database, but we have paper files that we keep as backup to that electronic database. They're in fireproof safes so that it is kept safe. We're very proud of the fact that we were among the first registrars in the state of Connecticut to become certified. We passed every class given by UConn with an exam at the end of each class, and then a final exam up at the Secretary of the State's office, which was a lot harder than we anticipated, but we are proud to say that we were in that first graduating class. And we continue to get our education to maintain that certification status each year. There's a lot that goes into Election Day as well. We hired in the last presidential election over 175 poll workers. So we must say that our office staff does a tremendous job helping us coordinate that alone. But in addition to that, we're constantly working with the independent voting system, getting the training and making sure that that's running. Election Day registration, so that people can actually register and vote on Election Day. And we also have just started to implement the election management system, EMS, at the end of the night, which is an electronic reporting system. And because we are somewhat old school, or we always have a plan B or a safety net, we do a lot of that by hand because there have been some issues with the electronic management system. And so we want to always ensure that the integrity of the vote is paramount. And I really want to reiterate again, our staff and our relationship is tremendous. We work very hard for the voters of the city. And if you want to add more to that, Deborah.
Hello, everyone. I just thought it would be interesting to share with you a bulletin that we got from the Secretary of the State, dated April the 16th. We recently had a listening tour by the Deputy Secretary of State, came and actually to our office, and we sat down, the city clerk's office as well, and we shared with them some of our concerns, because sometimes there's a disconnect between what's in the law or the statute and what we do, and a lot of times we'll call them and we'll say, is it answer A or answer B, and you get yes. So then it's like, what has come down to the time that I've been in the office and working with Carrie so many times, and I just wanted to say too, it's our office staff, we couldn't do without them. But what it comes down to is a lot of times they'll tell us, well, what is your best practice? And Antoinette and Lee and Rose, that's what they did. They had already started that. They look at the whole thing, the whole process, the whole voting, everything about it, or running the office and everything. And it comes down to what is the best practice. And the two of us have to sit down and we hash it out. Well, what about this? Well, what about that? And we play the devil's advocate and we throw stuff at each other. We always have backup plans to our backup plans for that very reason, because it's on you. It's your head. You can't just call the Secretary of the State. Sometimes you can't get through. They're very good, but sometimes you can't get through. And so you have to use your best practice and what you think is the best thing that you could put forward. The other big thing that's been coming down after the last election, and you know some of our job because some of you, all of you were on the ballot. You're the winners. And but the big news is 5.1 million that the state of Connecticut received from the federal government just for cybersecurity. And we now fall under critical infrastructure with the Homeland Security. So it's kind of scary, but you know what? But it sounds really impressive. So also in our office, we have 2 deputies. We have 2 seasonals that are also assistant registrars. I would say we have a great camaraderie in that we trust each person in the office to put their best foot forward always, and we have determined what their skill sets are, and they do that job, and we trust them to do it. And so each person is important, and we expect them to perform to the best of their ability, and I think they do. Absolutely. And one other thing, just quickly, that we have to talk about, an unknown that will be coming up for the future. We always give you, look for it, it's coming down the pike, like our certification, and you probably already know it's in the news. Early voting is going to be a big thing, and we don't know what kind of impact that'll have. But these are the exciting things that we have in our, did I say everything? Okay, good. Any questions?
Alderman Sutton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the registrars, I'd like to commend you on achieving the certification. I'm sure that was not easy to earn, and having your department do that, having your office do that, reflects very positively on the city of Milford, and attaining those types of recognitions and showing that your department does that type of good work at the highest level, it lifts us all. And just very briefly for the second, we've had some very busy elections, 2016 particularly, and I know that's a small part of your day-to-day activities, the actual administration of Election Day. But if we think back to a couple of years ago, a lot of cities in Connecticut had difficulties with getting people in to vote, getting people able to vote on time, and there really were no complaints that I can recall occurring in this city, and I wish to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Good evening. You touched upon registering high school, the students. Can you just explain, give a little background of how that's handled? Is it, you know, are you both there at the same time, or is your staff there?
That's a great question. It's state mandated that we attend the high schools. So we go to Foreign and Law and Platt Tech and the Academy. We go to all 4, and yes, the registrars and their deputies generally go. If someone were to be out sick, I think we've done it with 3 of us, but there's always, each party is represented.
When you register them at that moment, do they fill out a paper, or do you walk them through the online process?
It's generally the old-fashioned way, paper and pen, with all of the in-person regulations that apply. But if someone doesn't have an ID with them or can't get verified while we're there, or they have a sibling or a neighbor that they know moved in, we do provide them with the link for online voter registration. And we've handed that out. We create our own little slips of paper with the web address on it.
Are you, just to follow up, are you able to track people that are registering online, and maybe people that are changing their party affiliation online?
Define track. We know, they come in through our computer when they come online, and we know who those people are. But I'm not sure what you mean.
I guess if somebody wants to change their party affiliation just online at the privacy of their home, are you aware of that when it happens?
Not when it happens, but when I come into the office in the morning, there's a list of people who do exactly that. So we get a list that sort of comes in our, it's not an inbox like a mailbox, but it's part of the Connecticut voter registration system home screen. And it'll say 13 people have registered online. Some of them are brand new, some of them are party changes, some of them, what else can you do? Change your address. And so we get that information, and we simply process it within the computer system as we would a hand written form.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
At the schools, through you, Mr. Chairman, to Anthony, Alderman Anthony, most of the kids know when we're there what they want to register, and there aren't too many changes. When we just look it up, you have a one or two, and maybe they will for the primary, but I would say most of the time they don't. But we do give them the option and tell them, if you change your mind, if you want to vote in the primary, you can go online and do it.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, speaking of primaries, can you share with us statistically, is it a lower turnout in a primary?
Sure.
Yes, it is much lower. I would, if I were a guessing registrar, I would predict somewhere between 15 and 20% for the upcoming primary turnout.
Within your budget, do you have money allocated for potential primaries?
Yes, when we created the budget, and we'll talk more about that with Joanne and the elections account, but yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Alderman Beatty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I would just be amplifying what Alderman Sutton said so perfectly about what you do, so thank you. But I wanted to comment on something different, the education piece that your office does and the individual people. And it seems like every time I have an interaction with either one of you or the part-time staff or in the office, I learn something. And I was thinking, even Alderman Giatanasio's question, there was a letter to the editor from your part-time employee about the primary and what are the deadlines for the primary and if you want to switch party and how you're eligible. That was just in the paper in the last 2 weeks. It was perfectly concise, and that's somebody who's invisible right here and a part-time employee. So that's an example. And Carrie, I heard you give us, it wasn't spontaneous, but it spoke to your standing on and thinking on your feet when somebody asked you about protections, about voters, 2 votes counting. That was during the 216, the post period, and you really were able to educate the whole room about that in an open, non-defensive way. So the piece that you do that's about education, besides all the concrete functions you perform for each of us in the city, is really speaks to the individual people involved. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Good evening, ladies. When you were indicating the fact that you visited the high schools, you mentioned 3 high schools, or 4, Platt, Foreign and Law, and the Academy. What about Laurelton?
That's an interesting one. It doesn't, because they're a private school, we're not obligated by law to go there.
Because it's private, you're not
Yes.
obligated, but can you, do you, or would you?
Yes, it just takes a little bit more time out of our day and to do that, but yes, we could.
Because that doesn't afford the same opportunity, because there are kids at Laurelton
all over the
from Milford,
Yep.
and they don't have the same opportunity to get that advantage of you're going to and visiting them to become registered voters. So I think that should be considered maybe in the future.
We certainly will.
Especially for our kids from Milford, that go to
Absolutely.
Laurelton. Thank you.
Any more questions for the registrar account? Seeing none, thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you for answering all the questions. You might as well stay there now and keep our city clerk company. The next account on our agenda is account number 4129, city clerk, on page 22.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Joanne Vard, City Clerk in Milford, for those of you who do not know me. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for providing me the opportunity to present the budget for the City Clerk's office for the fiscal 2018-2019 year. As you can see, my budget is very lean and status quo. I would like to, at this particular time, to thank the Board of Aldermen, both past and present, Mayor Blake, Sly Mora, Joe Dempsey, and John Alexopoulos for their help in providing us with our security cameras at Parsons. I think it was long overdue, and I'd like to invite each and every one of you to come in and see what you've provided for us, and thank you very much. Our office is the guardian of the city records and a conduit to the state of Connecticut and their ever-changing laws and mandates. We have made great strides in our technology procedures, including the addition of e-recordings at the city clerk's office. This has made land recordings for our client base across the country easier and at no expense to Milford whatsoever. At this time, it's my sincere thanks and appreciation to each one of you who volunteer their time for the city of Milford and make the city the best it can be. If you have any questions at this time, I'd gladly try and answer them for you.
Anyone having any questions for the city clerk? Alderman Sutton.
No question, Mr. Chairman, but through you to Madam City Clerk. I just want to say that the City Clerk's office, probably next to the tax collector's office, are the two most visible and used offices in this city by its residents. And I can tell you that, people who reside in my district have had very positive experiences in your office, very pleased with the user-friendliness of your office and the customer service, if you will. Very pleased.
Thank you very much.
I wish you to know that.
Thank you.
I got a question. For some reason, more and more, I see more and more dogs going into restaurants and Home Depot and Laws and stuff. What I was wondering was, I know you have to be licensed in the city clerk's office for your dog. These people that are running around, I don't want to put the blame on any individual, but I got a funny feeling that some of these aren't really registered comfort dogs or psychiatric dogs or therapy dogs and service dogs. Well, they're all under that. So is that something that maybe in the future that we may be looking at, where, because I see the restaurant people, when the dog comes in, everybody's looking at the dog and saying, you know, how does that dog able to come into the restaurant, you know, but they don't have like a license that says that it's a service dog as such. Is that something that we might be looking at?
We don't register service dogs, we just license them. I think that's something at the state level that you might have to inquire about. I really don't know the answer to that, and if I could find out for you, I guess, through the right department.
Yeah, I think it's become more and more popular, and more people have this question mark on their faces when
And I would think with restaurants, that would be an inquiry.
Well, they're all over the place. They're in Stop and Shop, they're in ShopRite, they're all over the place.
Yeah.
They're little companions.
And in City Hall, too.
They're in City Hall, too.
Yeah, Parsons.
There you go.
All the time.
Thank you, Joanne.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just thought maybe it might have a surprise
answer.
I thought maybe you have a surprise answer for me or something. Any more questions for the City Clerk's Department? Seeing none, thank you very much,
Thank you.
Madam City Clerk, for the job you do for the City of Milford. And we have up on deck is the last account for this evening, account number 4112, elections, page 14. Any questions for department elections? You think you basically could answer the questions on part of the registrars as well. Thank you very much for this good job you did. Any questions? Oh. Alderman Giannattasio.
Just a comment. I think you might need the $120,000 for a primary. It might come in use. I just wanted to note that for the record.
Thank you.
Is there any questions relating to elections? Seeing none, is there a motion to recess?
So moved, Mr.
The
Chairman.
next budget meeting is going to be tomorrow night, Tuesday, April 24th. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is a motion to recess?
So moved. Second.
Is this a motion to recess? Second? Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Thank you.